Now to share a private sector perspective on financial innovations and sustainable financing is Amita Chowdhury, Group Head of Sustainability for AIA. She's on the Executive Committee for Singapore Sustainable Finance Association, where she is based. Amita, I know you're ready. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be presenting today on the 25th anniversary of United Nations Global Compact. Axel, you talked a lot about Africa. I'm from Asia. And I just want to say that I have a long-standing association with UN Global Compact, including as a senior advisor a few years ago when I was on a secondment from Unilever, working with Sue Allchurch, Chief of Outreach and Partnerships, and of course as AIA, which is the largest Pan-Asian life and health insurer. We're a patron. We also are represented in chapters across Asia in multiple countries. So we heard this morning from Jesper, we've heard from Axel, we've heard from Mr. Denton that private sector needs to step up when it comes to sustainable development goals. And Jesper talked about the fact that private sector has been stepping up. But there is, if you think about the stark reality, $4 trillion of SDG financing gap that has to be plugged. The argument goes that we have more than $200 trillion of private sector capital, so all you have to do is just divert a fraction of that and you will plug the gap. But it hasn't happened. Why? Because in order to unlock the private capital, I think John Denton remarked that we have to enable private sector. And I would say we have to unlock 3 enablers. And I call them 3 R's. The first one is risk and return. The second one is re-engineering. And the third one is regulation. So let me illustrate that with an example. Insurance, so exciting, right, as a sector. AIA is the largest Pan-Asian life and health insurer. But we are also a significant institutional investor, asset owner, with more than $250 billion of assets under management. And the way our business model works is that we take the premiums from all the customers, then we pool it, and we invest it in assets that will give us sustainable risk-adjusted returns to safeguard this long-term financial security and health and life protection for our customers. The biggest risk to our business model is if the investments are in risky assets or if we don't get the returns. Then we fail on our promises that we make to our policyholders. Therefore, it's really important when we deploy private capital in sustainable development goals or in any assets, we are going to have to ensure that we manage the technology and market risk and also ensure sustainable returns. So that's 1 R to be enabled. The second one is re-engineering, which is designing innovative platforms and instruments and blended finance platforms to make SDGs projects bankable. And then, of course, a lot has been said about regulation, consistent, clear policy frameworks, standards that are interoperable in order to, and incentives that reward SDG-aligned investment. How do we unlock systemically these enablers? Numerous examples suggest that we need to adopt what I would call a whole of finance approach. Whole of finance approach is about bringing together the actors within the financial ecosystem and aligning the goals and forging partnerships to make real progress on investing for a better future possible. Let me share a few cases. Temasek is a Singapore sovereign wealth fund. It became the cornerstone investor for an impact fund by Leapfrog, a $1 billion fund that gave AIA confidence to co-invest. This fund is now helping more than 20 million people, low-income people with financial services and health services. Second, re-engineering. There is a Seadrift insurance facility that is convened by ASEAN countries, MDBs and reinsurers, and a fantastic example of how to re-engineer risk sharing so that that can drive impact for vulnerable population. And regulation in India is encouraging financial inclusion, and mandates in China encouraging sustainable finance, therefore stimulating private sector deployment of capital. In summary, therefore, in order to marshal private capital towards SDG SDGs, we need to address 3 Rs with the whole of finance approach. This terminology of whole of finance is inspired by the place where I live, Singapore. Many of you might know that Singapore has had a remarkable success as a nation and a society, moving from third world to first world in 1 generation. This was made possible because one of the critical success factors for Singapore was that they took the whole of society approach, bringing together businesses, academia, NGOs, and citizens all moving in alignment, pulling in the same direction. And Singapore is using a similar approach for finance through the setting up of Singapore Sustainable Finance Association with the aim to boost investment in sustainable development. So we all want a world with reduced inequalities, with jobs, with education, with environmental responsibility. That's the promise of SDGs. The whole of finance approach can unlock private capital, but everyone must play their part. So my call to action to the audience in this room is that if you are philanthropies or MDVs or IFIs, provide catalytic capital, which you are doing, concessional funding, blended finance to crowd in private capital, to de-risk and crowd in. To banks, asset managers, and insurers, use balance sheets, structuring expertise and mandates to channel finance into impactful bankable projects. To corporates, standard setters, and governments, innovate sustainable models, set consistent standards, and create enabling policies. And finally, last but not the least, platforms like the United Nations Global Compact. What a great opportunity for the UN Global Compact to move, in addition to principles, structured convening of the whole of finance system, leveraging your 60+ network platforms across the world to take action at the local level, roll it up for the whole of finance framework at the global level to align fragmented efforts, fuse capital, policy, partnerships into one shared path for action. And as you go into your networking break, the question that you might want to ask the next person is what role they might be able to play in the whole of finance to unlock private capital for sustainable development goals. Maybe you will find an opportunity to take one more step towards a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Amita.